Hey, Aura Room fam, welcome back to the space where we get real about energy, intuition, and the inner work that actually changes your outer life. I'm your host, Archita, and today we are talking about something that sounds simple but is low key a superpower: attunement and awareness. Not as a cute meditation vibe, but as a way of living. Like, how do you walk through a normal Tuesday with your nervous system online, your intuition activated, and your choices aligned? Because let's be honest, most of us are not struggling with a lack of information. We are struggling with a lack of internal clarity. We have got tabs open in our brain, we are reacting on autopilot, and then we wonder why we feel disconnected from ourselves. And that's why I'm so hyped for today's guest. David Allen Brown has been teaching personal empowerment, leadership, organizational development, self discovery, and spirituality for over 30 years. He's the author of multiple books, including Answer the Call, What to Do When Spirit Arrives to Transform Your Life, and The Self Help Paradox. He has served progressive spiritual communities across the US, and he also consults for corporations and nonprofits on leadership, culture, authenticity, presentation skills, and staff development. So, yeah, he speaks both spirit and strategy fluently. His most recent work is an online course called Convergence, which helps people recognize and regulate their inner voices so they can live intentionally and actually manifest goals without self sabotage. Today, we are unpacking how this became his life's work and how he integrates it daily and what makes it so powerful. So, take a breath, unclench your jaw, and let's get into it. Welcome, David. It's always a pleasure to host you.
I'm so glad to be with you again. Our conversations they mean so much to me.
Definitely, it's so does it do to mine. So let's start with the basics. Attunement sounds beautiful, but what does it look like in real life when you're stressed, busy, and triggered?
That's a great question because we all find ourselves there, don't we? I love and appreciate what you said in the introduction. None of us are suffering from a lack of information or input. There's plenty out there as soon as we, sometimes wake up or reach for the device or step out of our homes. And what attunement is allowing both a higher power from outside of our experience to provide. I like to call them sort of signposts or guideposts along the way, but then it's creating an intention within to to recognize, to be open, and especially to trust that those guideposts are there. Attunement starts with just an openness. Today I will seek to know, to have an understanding, to trust what I'm seeing. Sometimes an idea or a happening or an open door may appear before us, sometimes literally, and we just may not have stepped into a space that day that was an awareness of that, or a willingness. And I think that's a good place to start, that sort of willingness. Today, I will be open to what spirit is showing me. And that's the start of attunement. We can talk more then about the recognition and the gratitude and the alignment with those things. But let's start at the start. What do you think about that? Just sort of that willingness, even as people hear that phrase from you and I right now in this podcast, the power of it.
That's a pretty simple way to put it, and that also explains a lot. I think it's a very good place to start this conversation. And willingness is exactly how I describe it as well. Also, affirmation, like when we wake up and we are just ready for the world, we're just ready for the day to start, and then we can do it. I think it's also attunement in a way. So yeah, definitely very well put. And what's the micro signal you personally notice that tells you I'm not attuned right now? Because that also happens a lot of times.
Sure. Yeah. You know, it's one of the words that I love is grace, is being in grace. And it has a sort of a capital G, you know, a significance in our spiritual lives. The grace of forgiveness, the grace of a higher power, the grace of an energy that will carry us forth, that helps me dive into faith and know that I will be okay. But in answer to your question, one of the things that I discovered in my own life is that the the more standard English definition of grace, that sense of just, am I flow, you know, how is my body responding? Am I feeling both comfortable in my body and in my surroundings? And one of the things I notice is that if I'm being clumsy, if I'm just being less graceful, if I'm sort of bonking into things in my regular space or into people out in the world, or I'm just not really at peace, I'm just like I'm not graceful. And that becomes something that even neurologically starts to affect how I am, as I you know, just can't really settle down, as one trip, sometimes literally a trip, becomes another, as one you know, in the kitchen, one accident or one spill sort of compounds. All of these things are one of the easiest ways for me to just be aware, "Oh, wait, I've skipped a step somewhere along the way. I'm not either in balance or, willing or, focused or, or responding in a realm that I want to be." And, you know, I that's I found that so true, that those stumbles are the opportunity to stop and pause and see where I am, to assess.
Definitely. And I totally feel that, not always being attuned, that's fine. It's we are humans after all. So it's definitely okay. But then also understanding why is that happening? Why are we not attuned? I think going to the base of the problem, that is also very important, and understanding the why. So yeah, definitely. So, David, you talk about recognizing and regulating our inner voices. What are the most common inner voices that people confuse with intuition?
Mm. Um, I think that one of the things that's happened for us as people is that the inner voice or the inner experience of emotion, that there are emotional responses that we have that are very natural. I want to continue on with your theme of we are human after all. And yet, through culture or our own experience, perhaps growing up, where we tend to place a lot of judgment on some of those emotions. There are good feelings and there are bad feelings pretty much from the start. And there are things that we want to feel, of course, because even physiologically the response is lovely. And there are things that we really think we should just completely avoid. And whilst I do think that pain is one of the things that we should avoid, what the trap that I see people and myself in my own history was, oh, but I don't want to ever be afraid. Oh, but I don't want to ever be angry. That's very, very common. I don't want to ever feel sad. I don't want to ever feel lonely. Somehow we put such judgment on those, and I'm not saying, oh, they're pleasant or that sadness becomes joy as soon as we write. No, no, no. None of that's that's putting judgment too. That's saying, oh, I don't want this, I want that. So one of the traps that we can avoid is assigning a negative aspect to the voice specifically and especially in our emotion and intuition. And so we want to release judgment and recognize what the intent of these feelings are and embrace them so that we can move forward with them, and the gifts that they're offering us.
Absolutely. Like you just said, I think embracing all these voices are very important. And when we say that I don't want to feel this certain emotion ever in my life, I don't think that's possible, because you cannot avoid any emotion, for the rest of your life, because like I said, we are humans and we tend to feel things. That's how we were made. So that's just something impossible. The first step is to embrace all of these voices and not be scared of them. So, David, how can someone tell the difference between intuition, anxiety, and ego without overthinking it into oblivion?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's tricky. And I think that one of the simplest, we were talking about that willingness, and then sort of a next step in the willingness is then uh, the sort of engagement. And so what I found is that we're getting um, stuck, I guess. We're falling into that trap when we empower just one of those voices or one of those experiences. So you mentioned ego, for example, or a fear. That sense of, okay, so it must be it must be my truth right now. This is the only thing that there is. Let me lean into the afraidness. Let me like carrying on what we were saying before. Let me resolve to never be angry. And you can probably build a life in which you are never angry. But would that entail so much intense energy into that one aspect of your life? I mean, how would you have to frame so many decisions and put so much importance on that one thing being your goal in life? I will have this job and be around these people or be around no people. I will have this level of wealth. I will be in this room. I will never interact or succeed or go out into the world or risk. I mean, how and anyway, the illustration I'm trying to make is that we fall trap into these things when we just think there is only one truth. And the most fundamental way to overcome this obstacle is to be certain and to immediately just ask the question, how do I know that is true? Or what else might be true about this? Now, the first thing that I'm illustrating here is that there's more than one voice. And so we're immediately away from one aspect of us becoming the intensive thing and us making all our decisions there. We're immediately curious and we can become instantly open to that there are alternatives because there are always alternatives. Now, we human beings are such powerful manifestors, and I'm not talking about wealth or cars or cheeseburgers. I'm talking about the ability to tell ourselves stories that are true for us. And in the midst of any situation, we choose what story we want to tell. Maybe we can't change a fact or an incident. This isn't about moving backward. It's about moving forward with an awareness, with an alignment that says, okay, what do I want this to be? What do I want the end of this relationship to signify? What do I want this seeming step backward professionally to provide for me? What do I want that? And so looking forward, it's not the story that's as important, what we tell about what happened before. Creation and alignment happens in the story that we tell ourselves moving forward. This will be part of my success story. This will be part of my alignment story. This will be part of my loving story. This will be part of my growth story. The values that we want to carry forward, we can in response to everything that happens to us when we align with the story that is truest to us. And let's begin to go there, you and me, because how do we know? Because that's what we want. We want this confidence stepping forward that it will all be okay or better than okay. Okay. How do we know? Well, it's because we're bringing love there, because we're bringing our highest principles which is love universal, but which also includes that prosperity, that joy, that peace, that service to others, that forgiveness, that gratitude, all of these things that are of our greatest calling, of which we know. I would really guess that likely no one who is willing to tune into a podcast such as yours who doesn't already have deep within them a firm understanding of what their core values are. And those aren't in question. Those are the answer to the question.
That's a very fascinating way to look into it. And those are not the questions, those are the answers to the questions. That's a quote that I'll be using in the future for sure. And yeah, I mean, sometimes anxiety is loud, ego is persuasive, and intuition is quiet. And somehow we still listen to the loudest one like it's a boss. I think that needs to change. And David, you work with both spiritual communities and corporate teams. Where do you see people most disconnected from themselves, in church spaces or in boardrooms? I feel like I already know the answer, but for our listeners, could you just share?
I hear what you're saying, and I think that we assume, oh, well, in business we set all these things aside, and I think that what we want to really dive into on behalf of your listeners is we can be disconnected everywhere we are, and we can be quite connected anywhere we are. And I've seen great disconnection in spiritual settings, folks who are who and I think what a beautiful and just giving way of saying it. The voice is loud. The anxiety voice can be very loud. It can really be dominating the conversation, and there are various techniques for that. Whether you're in a boardroom where the what's being presented to you is seemingly so tangible and so action oriented. Well, that's an easy place to um, not try to shut off those voices. Okay, in a boardroom, that perhaps is what your function is there. My concern, and what I would call disconnect, is when you're completely leaving out what it is that brought you to those spaces. You're completely leaving out gratitude for the expertise and knowledge for the people in the room, or you're completely leaving out the appreciation of the prosperity and the opportunity to serve others. Those are oh, if you're just focused on the immediate. And I guess in the church situation, it's the same. I'm only focused on what I'm supposed to say next, or what the practicalities of this is, or who might be noticing that I'm here. I've seen that happen, or just consumed with I'm in charge of the buffet after, and I need to get out there. My brain is with the snacks and the rest instead of in that moment that's being presented. And so I the disconnect is common, and it kind of knocks at the door all of the time. I think in a very practical way, though, perhaps something that you and I would suggest is, um, in the psychological realm, there's there are two methodologies for dealing with heightened emotion and heightened activity, and one of them is to go completely calm and to just allow it to happen around us and to be the example of being fully attuned. And that's one of the things that we do sometimes. And as we get more masterful, or depending on what's happening, we can release and we can get very, very centered very, very fast. And there's another way. And I want to put this out there in a playful way, and I want people to just embrace the other thing that professionals are trained to do is to match the level of activity that's being presented. So if someone is highly emotional, there can be times where a highly emotional response is required. And I think that that's an internal mechanism too. Sometimes when the voice of anxiety or fear, or especially if it's being mean to us from within, or it's being disrespectful of us as a human and as a spiritual being from within, it's appropriate for us to shout that voice down, to match its intensity, and to say, "You're wrong," or "I don't believe you," or "Get out of here," or whatever, to match that. And instead of if we can't go to the place of just purity in that moment within, then by all means respond with loving light right back. I hear what you're saying, and I answer you with the power of God. I hear that you're frustrated, and I can forgive myself as loudly as you can punish me for what I just did. I recognize that you feel alone, and I can bring here as powerful a presence of spirit and God as you could possibly create. As big a container as you think your loneliness is, I've got everything it takes to fill that container. And sometimes we just have to step into the strength of what alignment is. Think about it, everyone who's listening. We're not talking about tapping into some simple notion or some. We're talking about tapping into the unlimited experience of the past and potential of the future, the constant and uninterrupted resources of the present that is a higher power. Everything that we attribute to the function of spirit in our lives, we have access to. So, what could that voice within that came from wherever possibly do in the face of our most fervent response from a loving spiritual place? Sometimes you just have to smack it around a little bit.
But David, that was very powerful, to be very honest. Thank you so much for sharing it with the listeners. I mean, like you just said, I think disconnection, dissociation, it can happen anywhere. It does not matter the place. It can happen in church as well as, boardrooms. So, yeah, but the main thing is alignment shouldn't disappear. The second you open your laptop or even if you're attending a church ceremony, alignment should always be there. So definitely. But David, finally let's get a little controversial here. So do you think manifestation sometimes is just avoidance with better branding?
Do I think manifestation is sometimes just avoidance? And so I just want to extend that because what it could be, is a projection to what is next rather than acceptance of what is right now. Is that Does that frame the controversy a little bit? Okay.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's an amazing question. Oh, I love this. This is great. And here's why I don't think that it is. Can be, sure, can be. And we're talking about alignment and attunement here today. And so we recognize the vision element of manifestation as a specific place in which we are infusing and using our inner resources to create a vision for what can be. And we recognize that in that space, we are moving past what is right now in order to invite in to, as we started the show with, to have a willingness that the powers, all of the power we just talked about, could in fact get us to that place. And if we stay there, then I think we are in fact denying all of the tools that we have and probably buying into some magical thinking and escaping and trying to escape what is. The manifestation in a real form, what driven to create through my course, is a recognition that that's just one element and that we don't often see, although it does come across the news, that lottery winner or whomever, the odds are very long that without the next 5 steps, that any of that is going to happen. And we could get trapped there. But if we don't step forward in faith, which is the next step, which is knowing that things will be okay, recognizing that the universe wants us to succeed, accepting our place as a successful part of humanity, and take and do something. What's the very first step? just one or two. And it's very unlikely that if your vision is expansive, that you will, that one step is enough. The one step leads us to the next, which is attunement, which is what we've talked about. So now I've done something. What's a practical example? Let's say we want to start a business. And so the first thing that I might do is talk to some people who have either been in that business or who might have some knowledge about what that is. And so I'll do that in faith that this is the next thing. And in that process, how attuned can I be to just the mechanisms for a start? Oh, it was so easy to make that phone call. It was that person was so open to it. Oh, I really felt an enthusiasm within, let alone maybe from another person. Oh, the next call or person to excuse me, the person to talk to became so immediately apparent. So we're attuned to what's happening in the very now. Already we're way out of this sort of diversion or distraction mode because we're doing something. We're attuned to what's responding. We're looking for those signposts, those guideposts that I was talking before. That will move us into a next phase, which is trust, which is different from faith is stepping forward in and turning it over to a higher power. You'll lead me, and then I'll go into attunement to find out what I'm supposed to learn here. When we step forward with trust, it's a knowing, oh, I'm being led here like this. Okay. I'm not doubting. I may not see it's not even about result. It's about a new confidence stepping forward. And then the next step in my model of manifestation is then you got to do the work. Like there's just and it's the one that everybody's sorry to hear that. And oh, I thought it would just all come crashing towards me, and it is coming. But I mean, if if the hammer is there and you don't pick it up, then the hammer will continue to lay. That's the human experience that we have. When we do the work, then there is reward of some sort because we've gone through all of these steps. And once again, it may not be the whole vision because it's not really a circle. My model is it's really a spiral. Then we go up, we see what we've accomplished, we put grateful energy into that space. And then you know what we do next? We go back to the visioning. Now that I know what I know, what is my vision? Does it need refining? Is it still the same? Can I just embrace it again? And then we step right into the cycle all over again. But as you can see, at least two-thirds of that cycle are the doing, are the being, are the human aspect of manifestation, inspired by and utilizing all of the resources of the universe. But those resources are there constantly. If it was just going to be someone touching a magic wand to your head, well, it probably would have happened by now. Turns out that all the way back to the start, we are just human after all. And our input is required in order for these things to become true. So, yeah, I think many of us and there have been cases in the past and especially in the work that we do of folks promising all sorts of magical things will happen. And for a very select few, some magical things have happened. But for most of us human beings, yeah, we gotta move past that sense of magic and into the doing.
Absolutely. Even for me, manifestation is not about the results, it's about the process. And
Yeah.
I think, yeah, manifestation, faith, belief, whatever you want to call it, I think these things are very important for us, even if they don't work sometimes. But because it gives us that hope, and human beings, they need hope to, survive. So I think definitely it's like asking a child, do you think Santa is real? It's just they believe in it, so we can't just take that away from them. Even though I've seen people vision board their way around a hard conversation for like 3 years, no judgment, but it's just the facts. But
Yeah.
it might work, it might sometimes not work, but I think the key is to keep that hope alive. And I think, yeah, manifestation is that hope for a lot of us people. So, yeah, David, this has been an amazing conversation, and I have learned so much from you, like I always do after, at the end of our conversations. I'm sure that our listeners have too. So, if they want to connect with you or learn more about attunement, about your books, how can they do that? Could you share with them?
Of course, from anywhere in the world, the website is the best way to start. It's davidallenbrown.com. I bet there's a link in the show notes, but just note that middle name spelling. So it's David, ALANBROWN.com. And yeah, you can reach out to me personally with an email, see the programs that we have. There is a full course on the convergence idea. Now there are some new quick start programs. And since we were talking about manifestation, we've now published just that unit as something that can be purchased on its own. It's very practical. It's very real. I just gave you the overview. If you want to dive in further, then people are welcome to do that. But yeah, and send me an email if you want to know about scholarships or just talk theory or any of the things. That's what I'm here for. This is what I do.
Great. So I'll have all the details on my show listing, and our listeners can reach out to any time they want. All
Fantastic.
right, Aura Room. Thank you. All right, Aura Room fam. Here's your mini challenge for the next 24 hours. Pick one moment today, just one, before we respond to anything: a text, an email, a craving, a complaint, a decision, whatever it may be. Pause for 10 seconds and ask yourself, what part of me is speaking right now? Is it fear? Is it habit? Is it people pleasing? Or is it intuition? Is it the part of you that's tired and needs softness? That one question can shift your whole day from reactive to intentional. That's attunement in motion. If this episode hits home, share it with a friend who has been feeling overwhelmed or disconnected lately. And if you're enjoying Aura Room, drop a review. It helps the show reach more people who need this kind of grounded, soul forward conversation. I'm Archita, and this is Aura Room. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing the work. And remember, awareness isn't about perfection, it's about presence.